So before the video starts, I just want to say one thing. I kept calling piercing strike holy light. This thing, I kept calling it holy light because it looks just like something called holy light in another game I play. One of the questions I get asked all the time is how good is the light rune? So today I decided to make a video going over in depth just how good the light rune is, and after all of its recent buffs, it is actually a pretty viable rune. I would not say it's the best rune in the game, but it is pretty good. So the main concept of the light rune is to be able to use it and only use the skills that the light rune gives bonuses to. So this is the first rune created in mind to where it gives you a buff and it also gives you multiple damaging attacks. So I went ahead and basically used the light rune in every single raid that I thought would be super easy to use it in, and just steamrolled all the way up to hideout. But I want to start showing you guys just how good it is now that we're at nest a little bit more in depth. So the one ability that is a little bit questionable with the light rune does have to be its kind of main thing. That is the cloak of light. This instead bonuses your attack speed and your damage pretty greatly. Okay, so I want to show you guys that the cloak of light does not affect skill damage. So I'm going to put on calamity and use piercing strike on this dummy, and it does 738 million damage. And then as you can see, it will do 738 million again. I have done this a lot. Cloak of Light only affects the basic attack damage, so that is why I don't think it's actually a very good ability. But when using the 3 core abilities, I was able to get all the way up to nested without any problems at all. And actually, I think the light rune is one of the best runes in the game so far for carrying low level players through the raids. It is fantastic at mobbing thanks to the increased attack speed and damage, and also its abilities have very fast recharge time, making it excellent for quickly cleaning up raids with your friends. But I don't have calamity, I don't have havoc, and I'll have my damage thing on the bottom here. All I'm gonna use is the cloak of light, and you will see it just absolutely shredded the Priestess of Colossus. Also, I see they changed nest a little bit. It looks like they made the parkour part easier. Yeah, no, they made it a little bit easier. That's a weird difference. But as you can see, we are absolutely shredding these lower level bosses, but it will start to drop off a little bit more in Tartarus. So as you can see, with just Cloak of Light, nothing else, this rune is still capable of killing the Azure Flame God before he implodes and does all that damage to you. So this time I'm going to see just simply how fast I can clear this. I am going to turn my damage on just to see. So we're going to call down this right away. Immediately killed her. I think that may have one-shotted her actually. God, I'm so slow at that puzzle now. But as you can see, using all of his abilities, you just do an absolute ton of damage. And apparently you can one-shot with the Holy Ray just like that. So in here, I am not using Havoc, I am not using Calamity, only my base stats with some basic attack damage buffs. As you can see, Cloak makes quick work of the Dark Imps, but also we are way over leveled for this dungeon, so I want to see if I can just kill them with basic hits. No, I do not. So with the Cloak on, you can one-tap the Dark Imps, which is a massive improvement to just a basic hit in general. Against the Bone Collector though, you can see this is where it starts to drop off quite a bit. You are still doing enough damage to kill him, but you can do way better things. So if I start comboing my other 2 abilities with it, I will kill him very quickly. If it will let me use them. That was weird, major lag spike there. But as you can see, if you combine all 3 abilities, you can easily clear Tartarus on hardcore. So far this thing is passing the test, and it is living up to its name as being a rune that you can use with only the skills it affects. But if you're doing something with a lot more mobbing for lower level people, the Cloak of Light is fantastic. But once you get to Dr. V's Labyrinth and Frost Dragon and things like that, you're not going to be using Cloak of Light very much anymore. It's just, it doesn't boost your basic attack damage enough to make it worth using. One thing that Light Rune is really good at is fighting bosses that lock you like this. The piercing strike is such a massive burst damage that when you have time locks like you do in Blade the Vampire King, it's very effective for getting maximum damage out in the little bit of times you have. But I am sure literally all of you expected the light rune to be able to easily clear all the raids up to Tartarus. So the real test and the real thing I want to show you guys is why it is not worth using all 3 light rune abilities. I'm going to be doing this by showing you guys Dr. V's Labyrinth. I'm going to do it on normal versus hardcore because it is still very hard to solo on hardcore. In here, this will make very quick work of the mobs, but it will struggle against the bosses. This is why I think using the Cloak of Light in here may not be the best idea. So in the very first room against the security bots, it should still do pretty okay. Holy Light still does a ton, as you can see, and we're just doing plenty of damage, but once it gets to the bosses, it won't be quite as fast. Now, I will say using all 3 abilities is viable in most raids, but there is better things you can do with the Light Rune. After all the buffs, I'd say is only just now starting to be very useful with all 3, but the basic attack damage is gonna die off, and at some points you can't get super close to the bosses. Plus, you're missing out on massive damage bonuses like Havoc. However, in a team situation, one of your teammates can silence and can give you Calamity as well. Boom, awesome, I died there. But in a team situation, the Light Rune using all 3 abilities may be a better thing, but solo, I do not think this is the best setup for it. Also, keep in mind, this is only on normal, this isn't on hardcore, so you will see this is where the rune will start to struggle a bit, because you can't get close to the Toxin Droid without getting massive risk of getting poisoned by them. As you can see, the damage has dropped off quite a bit. So, is it still doing a good amount? Yes, it is still doing a good amount of damage, but because of abilities like that, you can't get close enough to the Toxin Droid to really capitalize on that cloak. As you can see, it already ran out, and I barely got any basic hits on them. So overall, I would say it's a fantastic rune, but once you get to the very high level stuff, you need to switch what you do with it. So you may be wondering, what other setups do you use with it? Well, in my opinion, the absolute best setup to use with this is only using the Piercing Strike as your damage. Basically what I like to use is Piercing Strike plus Havoc and Calamity if I am solo, but if I am with a team, I will use Piercing Strike, also Heaven Splitter with just Havoc if someone else can Calamity me, because the Heaven Splitter ability does do quite a bit of damage, but it is a very inaccurate ability, so it's not quite as good at hitting raid bosses as it is at mobbing like big hordes of guys. Also, the recharge rate is very fast, it is very ranged, so I think this will definitely be the most optimal setup for the Light Rune. I'm going to turn on my damage there so you guys can see. I want to see how fast we kill these security bots. That is already doing a lot more, and as you can see, very, very quick work. I would have two-shot it there, but I did not hit this guy here the very first time around. Oh, I didn't have Calamity on there either. Nice. But as you can see, this is the best setup. I was just being very sloppy there. You could have done that way better. I would compare doing this sort of setup with it very similar to the old way that you would use the Striking Rune, if you guys remember that. I think the Light Rune is kind of a replacement for that, since the Striking Rune was not a very high level rune. It was very broken, but this is level 750. So it's very, very good. So this time around, the Toxin's Droid should be much, much easier. I'm going to instant Calamity and already start. You can see that that's already doing a tremendous amount more damage. Look at that. That is just doing way more damage. I can safely back away whenever I need to. Over time, I'll be taking more and more damage, so my Havoc will activate. I need to turn on my damage shower there. But as you guys can see, I keep missing. As long as you don't miss, this thing does so much more damage. Havoc, Calamity, and then basically you can just backtrack the entire time and absolutely destroy this boss. It will take some time, and this is not really an optimal raid to solo, so you're not going to really be doing this very much. And you guys already saw how good this rune is in all the other raids. I'm going to be doing the exact same thing I did with the Piercing Strike, but with the Heaven Splitter instead, just to show you guys that the Piercing Strike is the best ability that the Light Rune has. But I'm going to get these guys grouped up. This thing has some pretty good range, so I should be able to stand here. I'm going to wait for Calamity, and that should... Yes, so one use of that does kill them. However, you can use Piercing Strike twice within the time you can use Heaven Splitter once. So overall, they do the same damage so far. I just wasn't very accurate the first time I was showing you guys. I kept missing. This time around, I'm expecting it to be way harder. Yeah, no, as you guys can clearly see, it is just way too inaccurate to do anything with the bosses. It is fantastic for clearing rooms with lots of mobs, but as soon as you get a room with bosses, you're in trouble. It's just way too inaccurate, covers way too big of an area to do an effective amount of damage, and its cooldown is so long that you can use Piercing Strike twice within the time that you can use this once. So overall, the best loadout with the Light Rune is Havoc, Calamity plus Piercing Strike, and yeah, overall is a very good rune. I put it at the same tier as actually the Ice Queen rune. It is very, very, very good. Thanks for watching my short video on how good the light rune actually is, and I'll see you later this week with more content. Bye!